Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon MacKinnon, and I'm a wildfire operations researcher with FPInnovations. And today I'm going to be speaking to you about our project that is developing a national post-fire examination framework, as we commonly call it, wildfire community impact research. So I'll start out with a little bit of history about this type of research in Canada. So before 2022, this type of research was seldom completed, with the previous research suggesting to focus on collection of structured data pre-fire, during, and post-fire on the same incident. And while this would be ideal, after many attempts to collect this type of data, we ended up not being in the right place at the right time. And so instead, we decided to our uh, focus our methodology on improving the value of the post-fire data that is much easier to get. After we received funding to develop the national framework, we were able to refine our methods, and we're able to successfully collect data on 2 incidents in Newfoundland and Labrador and 1 incident in Saskatchewan. So what are the objectives and scope of the project? Well, the project can be broken down into 3 main components. The first and most critical component to the project is the development of the framework and the standardized methodologies to collect post-fire data. So this involves 3 different sections. That is tools for data collection, a holistic approach to data collection, and a training package that can be used by other researchers so they can also go out and collect this type of data. The second component is refinement of that framework through data collection on incidents. And so we are able to go out to incidents and use the standardized methodology to create a large data set. And through that large data set, we can use, we're able to hopefully validate and refine some of the fire smart principles with empirical data. The third component is collaboration. And we're hoping to have members from agencies and other organizations join us in the field for data collection, training, and feedback on the framework, so that by the end of the project, we can have a purpose-built framework that can be used in all of Canada. So what's the focus for data collection? Well, specifically, we're looking to identify if there are any similarities or differences in how communities are impacted by wildfire across Canada. Different regions have different historical building practices, and it's important to understand how those building practices, as well as the fuel around them, influence how wildfires impact the structures and the communities. The project will primarily focus on the structure and the surrounding home ignition zone and the associated fire smart principles with that area. However, if there are fuel treatments nearby, we will also look at those. The data from each incident will then be analyzed and summarized into individual case study reports. And at the end of the project, we'll create a final summary report that combines all of the data. This knowledge can then be used to inform community wildfire resiliency and prevention plans, forestry and treatment practices, and allow both residents and agencies to prioritize prevention and mitigation measures. So how are we collecting the data? Currently, we're using an app called Survey 123 for the collection of all of our survey data. And we currently have 2 main surveys that we use when we go out to incidents. The first survey is the structure survey. It starts at the top of the structure, works its way down and out through the home ignition zone. The survey has over 500 questions meant to characterize and quantify the different sides of the structure and the property. But the way the app is set up, it's very quick, and most questions take only a few seconds to answer. When we arrive at an incident, we identify all of the partially damaged, the burned and unburned structures, and we try to sample or do surveys for all of the partially damaged structures and as many as we can for an equal proportion of burned and unburned structures. The other survey we use is the fire behavior, and it starts at the top of the canopy, works its way down through the different fuel layers, quantifying metrics such as spread direction, canopy closure, and fuel consumption of the various layers. As you can imagine, this creates a lot of data. However, this data should be extremely useful for generating statistically significant correlations through the ability to combine data from multiple incidents. So how can collaboration help this project move forward? Nationally, we're working at strengthening our relationships with wildfire agencies, municipalities, and Indigenous communities so that we can reduce barriers to access impacted communities during and shortly after. When residents return to an area, things change very quickly. Burned and unburned items are moved to different areas of the property or moved from properties entirely. Also removing very valuable information that can help us to determine what may or may not have contributed to the impacts from the wildfire to both the community and the structures within them. Internationally, we're also working at strengthening our relationships so that we can better learn from what others are doing or have done. And the feedback and information from national and international researchers should help to develop the framework to its fullest potential. Thank you for your time.